So, what sort of impression does this make? King of Great Britain never actually visited his colonies in America. It made sense for the king to appoint representatives to speak for him. In some ways, a royal governor had plenty of power to carry out the king's will in his assigned colony. Every English colony also had an elected legislature. Virginia's was known as the House of Burgesses. They had one very important power that the governor did not have: taxes. That made a big difference in the length of time it took to finish the governor's palace, as opposed to that other major building in town, the Capitol.
Every county and city has their own courtroom, but this one is for all of Virginia. At the head is going to be the governor. These are the wealthiest, most powerful people in the colony. If they are listening to your trial, they do not know you. They do not relate to you.
The last of the 7 royal governors was John Murray, 4th Earl of Dunmore. He left in a hurry in June 1775 as the Revolutionary War was getting started.
In April of 1775, Dunmore removes the gunpowder from the magazine here in Williamsburg, prompting rage from his constituents. They form a Minutemen militia style and are willing to come in and take the gunpowder back by force. This prompts a very quick and hasty exit from the palace by the Dunmore family.
Following year, 1776, independence is declared. Patrick Henry becomes the first elected governor of the new Commonwealth of Virginia, followed by Thomas Jefferson in 1779.
By law here in the colony, you have to attend church at least once a month, and it has to be the Anglican church. Henry VIII, he starts the Anglican church because he wants to divorce his wife, but that is not legal in the Catholic church. So he starts his own church, and he says that he is the head of the church. God has told him that he is to be the head of the church. And so he makes everyone be Anglican. So you can be Methodist, you can be Baptist, you can be Presbyterian, but you cannot be Catholic. That is against the law here. The trials here, they last 24 days. You have the accused, you have the witnesses, you have the bystanders, you have just the public wanting entertainment. If you are guilty, we have some crimes that are eligible for benefit of clergy, some crimes are not. Horse stealing, murder, treason, witchcraft, slave stealing. For those crimes, you are sent directly to the gallows to hang. We now have red hot coals for these branding irons. And each crime has a different letter. So I have an M for manslaughter because murder is not eligible for benefit of clergy. That has motive. And then I have T for theft because treason is not eligible. They'll take your left hand, they'll strap you to the bar, and they'll take the brand, strap you down, and they'll brand you with the letter of the crime that you commit. And they'll hold this ironing brand here until you say, "God save the king or queen." Once you utter those words, they'll remove the brand, and you have this reminder for the rest of your life to be a better person, to make better choices. If you come back into this room with the brand of a letter, you do not get to collect anymore. You've been given that second chance at life. So if you are guilty of your crime, you will be sent to the gallows to hang.
What do these weapons symbolize, really? Power, military might, power of life and death. So the governor isn't quite as powerful as the weapons make him look. Of course, looking powerful can be just as important as actually being powerful, right? Probably the most awesome thing to an 18th century Virginian would not be so much the weapons as the marble floor on the floor. Most ordinary Virginians lived in a house with a packed dirt floor. It would have to be somebody really important in Virginia's government. It would be allowed where we're going next. Somebody like George Washington. Let's continue on. This is where the most privileged visitors would meet with the governor, although it's also a family room, dressing room for Lady Dunmore. One of those visitors who had been able to speak with the governor personally a lot would be George Washington. They actually got along pretty well, until they didn't. The most important thing they had in common, they wanted a piece of that land west of the Appalachian Mountains. The only problem was that pesky Proclamation line that Parliament decreed at the end of the French and Indian War, forbidding any settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains until they had made proper peaceful arrangements with the indigenous nations out there, such as the Shawnee. Now, the way Lord Dunmore saw it apparently was, if you're going to have a peace treaty, you have to have a war first, right? That's how he saw it anyway. 1774, he finds a reason to go to war with the Shawnee. used about 140 of the muskets in the palace to arm 2 ad hoc regiments. They went west, and one of them did battle with the Shawnee at the Battle of Point Pleasant. And the treaty afterwards opened up the entire Kentucky country west of the mountains to legitimate settlement. So this made Virginia gentlemen land speculators like George Washington really happy. But Lord Dunmore didn't exactly start off on the right foot when he first came to Virginia. In 1770, the previous royal governor of Virginia, Lord Botetourt, died. So they had to find a new royal governor for Virginia. Lord Dunmore had been royal governor of New York for about 6 months at the time, and he was chosen to take Lord Botetourt's place here in Virginia. He was not happy about that and made it obvious too. He went on a drunken tear and said disparaging things about Virginia. Took his time getting here, didn't arrive until late 1771 without his family. His family finally did come to join him in 1774. Lady Dunmore arrived with 6 of their children, 3 daughters and 3 sons. Another child was conceived soon after Lady Dunmore arrived. Soon after that, Lord Dunmore goes west on his campaign against Shawnee. He returns victorious in early December 1774, and almost the very day of his return, Lady Dunmore gives birth to a newborn daughter. This is what the cradle might look like, where they would show her off. You might be able to guess the name Lord Dunmore chose to give his newborn daughter. She's Lady Virginia. In the ballroom, we have some of our Indigenous interpreters to give you a little bit of their point of view in all this. Let's continue.
January of 1775. The final ball held here honors not only Queen Charlotte's birthday, it marks the end of the Shawnee-Dunmore War in the Ohio Valley. 4 attendees of that ball are 4 Shawnee men brought here as political hostages. They will be wined, dined, fed, shown everything England has to offer. However, at the end of the day, they are not free to leave. I am dressed how those Shawnee hostages would have shown up to that ball in 1775. They are noted as cutting a grotesque appearance. That is an actual quote. We have the portraiture around this room. We have Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese princess, her husband, King Charles II. On the far wall, we have Queen Charlotte, 17 at the time of her coronation as queen. We have King George III on the other side, 22 at the time of his coronation. So you would have these portraitures up as a show of force, loyalty, and your connection to those names.
This room was basically designed for what they called a ball supper. You would have a ball in the ballroom. They would dance, starting with minuets, done one couple at a time in descending order of social rank. And everyone is watching you, silently critiquing you. You don't want to end up like Colonel Smith's son. One gentleman who attended a ball in 1709 Virginia noted in his diary afterward that Colonel Smith's son made a sad freak when he stepped the minuets. 300 years later, that's all we know about Colonel Smith's son. Take your dancing lessons serious. But after a few hours of dancing, they've worked up an appetite and a thirst. They're invited to step in here in the supper room. Just imagine many drop leaf tables set up all around the room, covered with all sorts of sweetmeats. That included fruits as well as sugary treats. Sometimes balls in Virginia would go on for days. Lord Dunmore decided finally the best thing to do while he still could would be to gather up whatever he could carry and flee with his family. He sent his family back to England, but Lord Dunmore remained in Virginia. He did not give up without a fight, in fact. It gives you a glimpse of the Loyalist point of view. Royal governors were ultimate Loyalists. They had to be. Check out all the points of view while you're here. You have a good opportunity here in Colonial Williamsburg to become more enlightened about our American history. Appreciate how complicated it really is.